Hi everyone. Our subject is inequality and poverty. This presentation is based on an article on Economist called Inequality in China Up on the Farm. As we all know, the rich-poor disparity has been one of China's most severe social issues. But the author of this article finds that in one of the poorest towns in China, which features the usual mix of rural business, opens an Apple store. It means that the relatively expensive Apple products also have market here. So that leads to the question we focus on. Is urban-rural inequality decreasing in China? What are the problems and solutions related? Some data has shown the income gap does become smaller. In the past few years, the Gini coefficient for income has decreased and urban-rural income disparity has narrowed. Here is a graph on income growth rate, and we can see that the rural income has been increasing more quickly than urban income since 2009. There are two main reasons for this phenomenon. First is that more companies are reaching rural places to seek low cost of labor and land there, which provides jobs for rural people. Secondly, more rural folk are working in urban area where salary is much higher. However, when it comes to wealth gap rather than income gap, the trend seems to reverse. The Gini coefficient for household wealth has increased a lot, and the average wealth growth rate in the past decade is 22% for the domestic and 11% for the rural. This is mostly because the soar of asset price. Specifically, the urban property price has increased much more than the rural property. So if you bought a house in big cities like Shanghai or Beijing 10 years ago, you're going to be quite rich now. The existing problems related are as follow. First, urban-rural disparity is still severe because, after all, what decides people's life quality is their total wealth rather than income. Left behind children is also a social problem. As I mentioned, more rural parents go to work in cities, leaving their children behind in their hometown. These children are like separate from their parents and may not be able to grow up healthily like other children. There is also social injustice problem. Under the household register system, which is the so-called 户口 system in China, the urban residents enjoy better welfare than rural residents in terms of social insurance like unemployment insurance, medical insurance, and endowment insurance, and also uh, school enrollment. Sometimes a rural student is not admitted to a school in urban area to receive better education. So, in our opinion, this social injustice problem inversely leads to more severe urban-rural disparity because if you don't give these rural people equal education and equal treatment, it's just like you don't give them the opportunity to become rich. So we think one of the most important solutions is to reform this 户口 system. Basically, this system classifies people as rural or urban people and control their mobility from place to place. Previously, when China was just liberated, this system was designed to advance industrialization process by sacrificing benefits of agriculture. At that time, a great proportion of people were regulated to be farmers, although there's not many benefits in agriculture. And these people had to leave these benefits for those industry workers. So the nature of this system was exploitation and unfairness. However, at that period, it was kind of reasonable because some developing countries have to use this way to realize initial capital accumulation. However, now China has already realized industrialization. Many people from someone say that the function of this system has turned to control population structure. and prevent too many people from pouring into cities, which create slums. So it's kind of like a tool to maintain social stability. However, like I mentioned, it also causes social injustice, and we strongly doubt that the disadvantages of this system have already overweighed the advantages. That's why we think we need to reform. Actually, policy measures have already been taken. In the future, all the people will be uniformly registered as residents instead of rural residents or urban residents. However, we still worry that there may be other ways to classify people and treat them differently, for example, by where they live and where they work. So we think further regulation and supervision are also needed to make sure everyone is substantially treated equally. The second solution is to stabilize asset price and adjust asset ownership. Property speculation should be restrained. This is not only a way to narrow wealth gap, but also helpful in preventing financial crisis. And the government can give away part of the ownership of land to rural people. Unlike most countries, in China, land belongs to the state. Rural household only has the usage right. If a certain proportion of land ownership can be left for the rural household, they can benefit a lot from the increasing value of land. And this proportion of ownership doesn't have to be very large. So in this way, both urban and rural residents have some valuable assets. However, it's actually a complex issue, and the implementation still needs more complete consideration and preparation. The third solution is, of course, to boost spread of education. While China's Poverty Relief Fund has helped provide more and better chances for students in the country's rural areas, wide gaps still exist between rural and urban education, such as the shortage of qualified teachers. So the government should either invest more in rural schools and teaching resources or subsidize rural students to study in urban area to make sure all students receive equal education. And such measures also effectively relieve the left behind children issue because these children in rural area will be well educated with both knowledge and mental guidance. And alternatively, parents will be more likely to take children with them to the city if their education in the city is subsidized. So overall, we want to say the key principle of our solutions is that the rich-poor disparity may be inevitable, especially in fast-developing countries like China. However, we should at least remove those disparity which is caused by inequality. That's all. Thanks.